know it deals with that, and that's really all I know, but I really don't need to know a heck of a lot more because I figured you'd ask me the questions. And I have the topic relatively well, relatively well in hand.
So, why are you such an advocate for mental health?
You know, because it's wrong what we're doing. I mean, it's really that simple. If you think about what we're doing here right now, most people would say through some type of benign neglect, but I would suggest to you there's more thought into it than you would imagine. We have taken people who are mentally ill and we've criminalized a behavior that they don't choose to have. And to sort of blindly go along with it, to me, is unacceptable. And certainly in my position too, where I'm seeing it every minute of every day. I mean, my God, I mean, you have some type of responsibility to step up and say, listen, what I'm seeing firsthand, most of you don't have the ability to see. And what I'm seeing is wrong, and I need to inform you about that, and I need to help be an engine to change it. So we have been real aggressive here for probably about 3 or 4 years now on this issue. And
I saw on your website that, in your website you have like the hotline,
yeah,
the hotline, and it's got statistics.
yeah, the self-reporting people who come in, and you know, there's some people will either exaggerate or maybe not be completely accurate, but the vast majority of them are just what they say they are. They have mental illness issues that they're suffering from, and the numbers are astounding. I mean, we always operated about that we had about 20% for years, and then it became clear that we're much more in the area of 30 and to 35. And now, in the last 2 years, that we've been doing our own work on the front end, because we used to just rely on CERMAC hospitals analysis. Once we started doing our own work and I started hiring mental health professionals specifically for this issue, it became abundantly clear that the numbers well beyond 35. And once again, you can talk about definitions, but if I think a pretty conservative definition, we're probably closer to 40% of our population is suffering from some serious mental illness. This isn't someone who's just having a bad day. These are serious mental illness issues that, schizophrenia, bipolar issues. So we are, unfortunately, at the sort of hub of the largest group of incarcerated mentally ill people in the country. So it made it even more urgent. Yeah, yeah. I mean, just because of the size of our facility, we're the second largest numbers-wise, largest single-site jail in the country. So just based on that, we'll have the biggest numbers of everything.
And it goes down to the question, why is it the responsibility of the sheriff's office to do that?
It really isn't. And that's where I think I puzzle people, because they think that I may be extending beyond what my mandate is. And I've suggested to them that if you want to really narrowly view what the sheriff's job is in the statute, I suppose you can make that argument. But I think a more expansive view, which I think is clearly what it's supposed to be, then I'm not just supposed to be warehousing people here, then I'm also supposed to be coming up with solutions, plans to try to minimize not just the hard number of people in here, but that the different illnesses and issues that they face, that you're trying to do as well as you can while they're here to address them, so that they don't come back, so they become members of the community that are adding value to the community, to whether it's their families, their community as a whole, whatever it might be. And so we viewed that as our mandate pretty much from the beginning. And when it became abundantly clear that you can't really do that unless you address the mental health issue here, then the two sort of dovetailed pretty neatly into each other.
And how do you do that after the discharge unit, like the incarcerated person? How does that go on? I know on your website it says you provide 2 weeks of medication for the person. What happens after that?
Yeah, I tried, and we succeeded, putting together a comprehensive type of approach here. So on the front end, I have individuals that talk to all the individuals right as they're being dropped off after being arrested. to try to identify their issues and to try to see if we can get enough together to get a judge at a bond hearing, which will occur hours after they're dropped off, to agree to put them in a mental health setting instead of the jail. We've had very modest luck there. The judges have not been terribly engaged in helping us on that. Then for the ones that are housed with us, which is a lot of them, they then are categorized based on the acuity of their issues, and then we treat them based on that. So there's all sorts of different treatment modules going on here. Then when they're leaving, we have put a discharge plan together that I'd be lying to you if I said it's comprehensive and we've got it all nailed. It's, by its very nature, it can't be, because there's not services out in the community, so we can't really put a comprehensive plan together to send you to a place that either doesn't exist or won't take you. So as near as we can, we try to put together a plan that goes beyond just handing someone a baggie of 2 weeks worth of medication. We try to make sure they do have medication when they leave us. They have an ability to get more medication once they're out. They have some housing arranged as well as we can. And we try to work with the families to try to work with transportation and as well as we can some housing. But as you can imagine, a large portion of our population has burnt out their family and friends. This is not the first time they've been involved with the criminal justice system. It's not been the first time they've suffered from a serious bout of some mental illness. And so as a result of that, a lot of their families no longer can be engaged. And I can't argue with them. They've probably gone through a lot of things I could never imagine. And so we try the best we can to connect people and make sure we're just not throwing people out. And it's a marked contrast to what goes on really throughout most of the country, to be honest with you. Most sheriffs, when the order says release them, they release them, and that's what they do. With us, we really put some thoughtful plans together. We partner up with NAMI and some other organizations so that we have videos we play for people before they leave to try to assist them, give them phone numbers, how to get a hold of us if they have issues, and how we can help them. And so we're really trying to do the best we can to tackle this problem. We are succeeding in putting a really good effort for it, though. And unfortunately, we have found out, though, that's not really the norm. And we're proud of the fact that we're sort of leaders, but yet at the same time, it doesn't speak very well as what's going on in the rest of the country.
Do you think what you're doing right now is what should be the norm?
I think it should be the baseline. Honestly, I don't know how a thoughtful society can do something less than that, because really all we're talking about is diverting people that shouldn't have been in the criminal justice system in the first place to the appropriate place. Well, I don't think I should get an award for that. Then while they are with me, that we treat them appropriately to try to address the illness they have. Once again, shouldn't get an award for that. And then finally, to try to steer them into a situation that would be much more likely to be fruitful and beneficial to them in the community. Once again, shouldn't get an award for that either. So I really think those are all baselines that we should be doing throughout the system, and the notion that somehow you're just into the housing component of it and then throw them right to the streets, and then we all look around and act stupid and say, this is puzzling. I wonder why this is continuing to go on this way. And I was telling people, well, what do you expect to happen? I mean, come on, it seems to be very predictable to me.
Well, and what's it going to take to change the way that Americans view mental health and mental health disorders? So it seems like, a lot of the issues that even you find to provide help in your facilities is coming back to the way that people on the outside are looking at it.
It really is one of the components that we have woven in there. It really wasn't something that strategically we had listed as one of the things we were trying to do. But what we were doing had the net effect of doing it, which was to inform and educate the public. I'd love to tell you it was part of this elaborate scheme. I put together most of these other components either by myself or with one or two other people working with me, and most of it's frankly just driven by common sense. But the educational component just sort of naturally flowed from it because we were doing something that was so different and so novel, and we wanted to make sure the world knew about it, that it is providing that educational component. I do think most people are appalled by what's been going on. They just haven't known about it. But having been in our legislature for years, there are a lot of things that people just willfully don't want to know. Yeah. there's a lot of painful things in our society that it's easier just to shield your eyes and go on with your life, and why focus on and why obsess with negative, depressing things. And I can understand that. That's, understandable human emotion. I don't think it's right, but I think a lot of people do that. We're very much of the opinion that, at a minimum, let's inform everybody, and then no one can, at least later on, they can't say, oh, we didn't know. We're quickly getting to that point, because between ourselves and maybe a few other places, there's been enough information going on about this where people are going to definitely be hard-pressed to say they didn't know anymore. So we're definitely trying to inform.
What was your response to, and how were you affected by the closure of half the city's mental health clinics back in 2012?
That was definitely not helpful. We were, like many people, caught off guard when that happened. We didn't have a robust direct connection at that point with those services, to be quite honest with you. We were more the initial phase. At that point in time, I had been spending more of my time on trying to divert people on the front end and less on the discharge planning part of it. Not because I didn't think it was significant, but there was only so many hours in the day, to be honest with you. And it was myself and maybe one or two other people that were doing all of this. And so because of that, we were less working on the discharge part. We knew when these places were closed, it was not going to help. And we would have felt much better if there was a more coherent plan put in place than just saying that people are now going to be directed to the other remaining 6 ones, and we're going to be able to take the money that we saved by closing them to fund more psychiatric positions, which I think is what they were trying to say. I don't even know if they ever followed through on that or not. Maybe they did. I don't know. All I do know is just the physical locations being shut down were very significant for a lot of people, and I know that from talking to a lot of the detainees who then didn't really have anywhere to go and had known that was the place to go that would take care of them, and it's not there anymore. So it just, it didn't help. Didn't help at all.
And I was really interested in, do you have a budget specifically set aside for dealing with mental health?
No, this is something I've sort of made up as I've gone along, where I've redirected resources, changed positions that I didn't think, frankly, were really were that necessary, and just retitled them and redirected them into here. So it wasn't a specific budgetary item where I went and pled with the county board to get this added. I just took the money that I already had and repurposed it. And I've been doing a lot of that in a lot of other areas, but this one was a lot of it. But this one had a weird type of connection to it. But by doing that, it was minimizing issues elsewhere. So it wasn't dollar for dollar, but by doing this, it definitely provided savings in other areas. So no, it was being creative, I think, probably more than anything else.
Do you feel that you have enough resources to deal with it?
No, we're not even close. I'm not pleading with people for more money for me to hire more people. No. What I really need is I need resources for a handful of case managers to help me with the folks that we're discharging. And I need this other, much more global effort to fund places for people to go, really having nothing to do with me in a real sense. I mean, I won't operate them. I won't be the one that's in charge of monitoring any of that stuff. But just the lack of funding in the community for mental health services is devastating for everybody, but particularly for me, because I'm trying to keep people medicated and active and engaged in their families, jobs, whatever it is. And if there's no place for them to go, then there's only so much we can do. So I've often thought, if I have the money for the case managers, which I've been trying to squirrel away money for that, that would really help me in managing this population once they leave me, where I really don't have any hook in them anymore. They don't have to answer my call. They don't have to do anything I tell them to do. But a lot of them realize that we care, and we're trying to help, so they want to stay engaged with us. So case managers are really the only thing that I need, per se, but I really do need this more global type of funding of mental health across the board, whether it's community services, hospital beds, really the whole spectrum. Without that, it's really tricky.
And is there any other facilities within Illinois or Indiana, Ohio that you might be working with to say, hey, this is what we've done here?
We're getting a lot of notice for what we're doing, and so I do know some other people are paying attention to it. A lot of the different national publications and television networks have been talking with us, writing about us, spotlighting us, and they have led me strongly to believe there's not much of this going on elsewhere. And what I've read, it's very, very spotty at best. So we haven't really interacted with too many other agencies because most of them we have found really don't have a lot going on in this area.
What do you think it'll take to get these kinds of health services out in the city?
I don't know.
The questions on the ballot.
Yeah. I'd love to sit there and say that it's we turn the corner in some form, and I see nothing to lead me to believe that. I mean, I don't think anybody really thought by shutting down those clinics, shutting down state hospitals, that somehow was making things better. I often tell people, I go, I would accept that if in the same announcement of shutting down clinics, shutting down hospitals, they said, because this new wonder drug was approved by the FDA, which now is curing and treating all these people now who you aren't going to be seeing anymore because of this new wonder drug. And so as a result of that, we now don't have to do these things. I'd sit there and say, okay, well, that's logical, that makes sense, I can understand that. But when you just shut stuff down with absolutely nothing to show as to why, to show that the need's not there, that somehow this is being taken care of some other fashion, that's come on. We know what people are up to here, and that's where the public is not, in my experience, is not like a bunch of 3-year-olds that just need to be satisfied all the time. They understand there's limited resources. They understand that we can't everything we want to have done. They just really want a frank discussion with people, and so I think they more prefer that if you are going to reduce things, that you come right out and just tell them, say, listen, because we just don't want to fund it anymore. We have no indication that the need's not there. It's not because people stop showing up. We just don't want to fund it anymore because we don't care as much about that as we do about these other things. And people are saying, oh, those other things, yeah, I do care more about those. So, well, something had to give, and that's where it's. But when people start trying to spin it into somehow, it's like, well, this is actually better. What? Oh, come on. How dumb do you think we all are?
So if they were to filter some of the money that was going towards the jail system and put it into a mental health facility, do you think that it's going to, that it would have a significant impact?
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that we could come up with empirical data that would show if individuals are treated, that they won't be coming back in here anywhere near the rate that they're coming back in here now. There's no argument with that. Are there some people where the problems are so serious and severe that there's little we can do? Yeah, there are. But the majority, the larger group that we have here, with the proper treatment, proper case management, medication when needed, counseling, they don't want to come back here. I mean, they don't. The thing I find so sad is routinely I'll talk to detainees who they truly are trying to be incredibly complimentary, and they are, but the thing that just really strikes me, though, is that routinely they'll say the best treatment and care they get is here in jail. And what a horrific statement that is. It's great for us, I guess, because we've become so good, and they talk about how caring the correctional officers. And the correctional officers, traditionally were not thought of as people that were real engaged in this part of the thing, but they're correctional officers. They're supposed to be watching detainees, safety and security of the detainees, the institution, all the rest of that. We give them advanced mental health training now, so there's a level of empathy and treatment component there that has changed the dynamic to where detainees love the people working with them. And they don't want to leave them sometimes